Hello, squad, and welcome to Module 8 of Applying Philosophy to Modern Global Issues. Thanks for your good work during our module on urban poverty in America. If it feels like the course is accelerating as we draw nearer to the end, that's because world events now demand our urgent attention. What has been happening in Paris this past weekend has suddenly brought the topics that we have been discussing to immediate life. On Friday night, a coordinated terrorist attack struck in several sites in Paris. Suicide bombers detonated explosives at restaurants and at a soccer match. The worst carnage took place at a rock concert where armed gunmen burst into the hall and started firing indiscriminately into the crowd. The death count now stands at 130. The Islamic State in Syria and Iraq has claimed responsibility for this attack, warning that it is just the first of the storm. The most disturbing aspect of these shocking events may be that two of the Paris attackers entered France as part of the huge wave of refugees seeking asylum in Europe. European Union leaders have been struggling to organize a humanitarian response to the hundreds of thousands of people arriving in their countries. As winter sets in, they will need housing, food, and health care. But now the debate has been intensified by passion. How the West deals with this crisis will test the moral culture of the civilized world. How do we respond justly to the moral complexity of this crisis? How do we protect the homeland from such terrible attacks and also respond with humanity when our enemies have been disguising themselves among the millions of refugees seeking safety in the West? It might be helpful at this point to look back at the history of refugee relief during the second half of the 20th century and glean what wisdom we can from the experience diplomats have gained from resolving previous refugee emergencies. In that way, perhaps we can avoid having our moral intelligence distracted by calls for revenge and sweeping judgments about what is to be done about the desperate situation of the refugees. Sergio de Vieira Mello was a Brazilian-born United Nations diplomat who for more than 34 years earned respect and praise from around the country for his efforts in the humanitarian and political programs of the UN. Sergio had an inspired career. He served in Bangladesh during the 1971 War of Liberation. He mediated between the Greeks and Turks in their violent struggle over Cyprus in 1974 and 75. He negotiated transfers of hostages and refugees from Pinochet's Chile in the mid-1970s. He was the first Western diplomat to hold direct meetings with the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia after the genocide there. In 1993, Sergio facilitated negotiations with Bosnian Serb leader Radovan Karadzic to exchange prisoners and thus slow the genocide in the Bosnian conflict. In 1996, he was in Rwanda and Burundi, negotiating the return of refugees after the genocide there. He led the UN government which launched democracy in East Timor after it had gained independence from Indonesia in 1999 and 2000. And Sergio was killed in the first major terrorist attack after the U.S. conquest of Baghdad in 2003. Sergio's example has inspired many colleagues and students, including the current ambassador to the United Nations, American ambassador, Samantha Power. Perhaps the lessons of peacekeeping that Sergio learned can be applied to the current situation in Syria and Iraq. But the drums of war are sounding louder and louder. How can we apply reason to a situation which is rapidly spinning out of control? What did Sergio do in hotspots around the world? Here are your tasks for this unit. First, we're going to read and annotate Samantha Power's essay about Sergio's career. Later in the week, you'll work with a classmate to create a report on one of the key episodes of Sergio's life. And next week, we'll start brainstorming your final project by creating a heartbreak map about a local or international issue of special interest to you. Finally, you'll schedule meetings with me to discuss your coming final project with me directly. And I'm looking forward to seeing each and every one of you over the next couple of weeks, and I look forward to your reports and seeing what you produce this time online. Have a good one.